So with our analysis here, we kind of sat back and reflected on what we've learned through this journey. And some of the things that came about as we kind of recapped was that you don't have to know a lot about the data to drive significant analysis. We knew nothing. We took data and kind of just started playing with it and started getting some analysis. I think we actually brought up more questions than we answered, but we stirred it. I mean, we're nobodies. We're just little guys in the corner that took on this data and started analyzing it. I think visualizing the data is key to exploring. Maybe some of our ahas happened when we actually saw some visual stuff that related to what we could interpret. And then JMP allows you to look at the data in different ways. And we just showed a few. There's a ton of different things that you can use JMP to look at it, different angles, different ways, describe it, visualize it. And having your customer available during the analysis is extremely helpful. We called in our customers several times to say, you know, this looks kind of cool to me. What do you think? Oh, no, that's nothing. Or having that kind of feedback was crucial for this, especially as we were riding this learning curve.
A couple other things. It's you know, there's JMP, there's JMP Pro. JMP Pro really offers a bunch of expanded capabilities, especially within neural networking, bootstrapping, things like that. At the time, we couldn't afford to get JMP Pro, so this has really kind of led us to want to take the next step into JMP Pro and start looking at that. We kind of sound like JMP salesmen, but kind of JMP junkies, yeah. You know, but a big thing, taking a project I mentioned early on, you know, we'd been to a JMP conference and we really wanted to challenge ourselves to present and try and, we had 3 or 4 projects we were looking at, this is the one we ended up with. But doing something like that, I would just encourage all of you, it doesn't have to be in JMP, obviously it could be Minitab, it could be anything. But when you go to these conferences, when you're in these meetings, challenge yourself to be the speaker in June or next February. Pick a topic, because I learned more going through this project than I did sitting through Black Belt training, sitting through JMP classes, watching JMP stuff online, or you go to a conference or whatever. Actually, really having to get your hands dirty and in there is just a great way to go. And then the last thing is, I think, at least speaking for myself, when I get projects like this, I'm always tempted to just kind of barrel through it on my own and do the best that I can. But Dave and I really worked closely together, which was great. And then more than that, we worked with a lot of other people. Don was very instrumental in helping us with this. We talked to a couple of guys within JMP and a couple of other people too. So we had all kinds of help and a lot of input, and it was really just a great teaming activity. And again, we learned more that way than, you know, had we been just kind of stuck at our desk and just wanted to do it.
In terms of, obviously you described your learning journey,
Yeah.
and benefit you got from it. Your customer had a lot of data. What were they doing with the data before? What did they take away?
So they were thrilled that we came by. So again, I was kind of in a different study, and again, we're searching for a project, and they said, well, what do you guys do with this data? And I said, well, we do such and such, but this study doesn't end for a couple months. But you know, we got this other study, David mentioned we ran out of funding. We collected all the data, and then we didn't have any money to do any of the analysis. And Dave and I are cheap, we're free, so they were happy to give us. And just, you know, and our only commitment to them was, you know, we're going to monkey and mess around with your data, ask you a million questions, and no promises we get you an answer. But, you know, he mentioned one of his lessons learned was get the customer involved. They were kind of with us all along and showing stuff like, I don't see anything here. And they're like, yeah, we're not surprised. I said, we are. But, yeah, but along the way, kind of that coloring the different EEGs and being able to kind of a little bit correlate that to test scores.
And did the tool essentially validate what they already thought about their data, or did they actually have a revelation about what the data meant by using the tool?
I think the tool, they had a revelation on what a tool like this could provide them as far as visual analytics on their data. It validated their data in some senses that we alluded to here. Another thing that happened that helped them out with our analysis is the DOE had asked them for this data, And basically, like Rick mentioned, because they ran out of funding, the most they had really seen was that raw data that they first gave us. This enabled them all the background to understand what that data was that they're providing to the DOE. So as the DOE is asking them for questions, I think it had to do with fighter pilot reactions or something. They had a lot of background on what data they were sending them to be able to feed those questions back and forth. So it gave them a good baseline of what kind of study they performed on this.
How did you get the helmet onto Grab? Did they have XY coordinates?
Yeah, the
Each one of
XYZ
them?
coordinates. Yeah.
Where each one of those goes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they, in fact, when we talked to them, they're like, yeah, we have that, and then one day we can rotate it, and they're like, oh my God, we don't have that.
Yeah, in fact, they told us, we have software that does that. Well, just let us try it. Wow.
Have you guys used the graph builder? Because I use it a lot. It gives you high dimensional views. It's like X, Y, Z, and then at least 4 dimension. They can drag things and group it by color. So at least you'll have 5 dimensional to view your data. I found it very useful.
We did early on, before we got into the neural stuff and all that kind of stuff, and the 3D scatter plot. Kind of the first thing, you're right, because the graph builder is great in Jump. You throw anything kind of anywhere and hope something kind of pops out and makes sense. And we didn't show it here, but I never saw it. All the combinations you can see.
What she's mentioned is a platform, for those who don't know, called Graph Builder. Basically is a very intuitive way to generate the graphs like we did. I don't think it has 3D scatter plot specifically, but it's like a open palette where you can just plug and play with your X and Y variables and kind of see how it looks and see if you put in another variable and put one on top of each other. It's a very cool feature of Jump. In fact, it's probably the first step any of us use for starting to look at what the data visually represents. Yes.
Another comment on the neural network. I think you could combine the addition, or I call CART, classification and relationship and neural network model together. You can use petition to see which variables significantly correlate to your line, and then make sure to put those variables in your neural networks first, and then you can gradually increase your number of X in your neural network until it fit. It gives you a good result, but if it adding one more, it doesn't give you significant improvement. That's when you know when you probably should stop.
Right.
And I remember you guys trying that. You did a stepwise regression on this.
We did.
We did.
And they did a forward and backward stepwise regressions.
But we wanted you to stay away through the whole presentation. So.
The classification and regression tree are very good for categorical variables. I would think stepwise regression will, for continual X, probably it will be more helpful compared to those categorical X.
Other questions?
Did the customer change the data that they were interested in collecting as a result of being able to see and visually represent tools?
Change the data.
Did they, if less than half their data is statistically significantly correlated, does that mean I want to go collect different data?
No, it's kind of free, right? You put the helmet on, you're going to get all the. So we just down selected the different nodes, right? So instead of all whatever 100 and something it is, we down selected the 7. So I mean, it make maybe a simpler helmet, but they use the helmets for all kinds of different studies. So what could be true in the one we looked at may not be true, like in the memory one that I was in. So.
It did spawn some conversation too on the ones that were significant. Some of the conversation, like Rick mentioned before, folks with a lot of hair maybe didn't make good contact, and they were sharing with us some of those experiences. As they were looking at the data, they were kind of correlating. They also did a thing called when they scrubbed their data, they had a certain way to take out the noise that they could detect if there was noise with the EEGs. And what was neat is they were seeing that with our analytics. They were saying, okay, well, I think that's noise, or no, we scrubbed that out. This is non-noise, this is good, this is bad. And we're seeing it with some of our analytics.
If you yawn like you're wearing one of those things, your whole brain does kind of like it's on fire.
It also changes the contours of your skull, so even if it's
They have ways to test.
contact to the gel, you're still
Right.
gonna
They kind of do a test when they put it on, and there's different size helmets. There's, how big Jody has, but yeah, they just don't. And it'll read where it's good. Where they do run into problems when people cough or move or do too many weird things. That's more problem. But they can see that. It's pretty obvious.
Thank you.
Hey,